So first things first, I would say the answer to that is a yes. To the promise of what cloud computing can deliver, right? What also happens is that when you look at the entire technology landscape and the trajectory at which it's going, by the time you go a third way, your expectations and what can happen more becomes that much higher, right? I mean, we were in the cloud computing journey when we came across to the edge. We were in the edge when we came across to generative AI. But I think to the promise, and I'll speak in context of India, if you were to think about what would all of us think is the best promise that it delivers, is that A, the scale, and B, the access.
Hi, wherever you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Tech Conversations, where we bring you insights from tech entrepreneurs, CXOs, and investors. I'm Hari Arakli, and today I bring you another episode of The Big Picture, conversations with leaders at some of the world's biggest tech companies. In today's episode, we catch up with Irina Ghose, a 22-year veteran at Microsoft who was recently elevated to the role of Managing Director of Microsoft India and South Asia. Irina spoke on a range of topics, from the pace at which change is happening driven by technology, to her own career, which started 30 years ago with Tata Steel, her sustained interest in tech, and why she took up running. We also introduce you to a couple of terms that are part of Microsoft lingo, like landing execution and tech intensity. Irina, welcome to this podcast. Thank you for making time for us. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on your new role. For our audience, can you just think aloud a little bit about yourself leading Microsoft India, just to give them a brief introduction to your work, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Hari, and it's absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be here in the show with you. So what I do in Microsoft currently, I've been in the company for more than 22 years right now. I must say this has been the most exciting phase of my life. And people ask me what's kind of been happening across many years. Microsoft, of course, pivoted many times. But the last 9 months, the pace, the energy with which everything has been happening has been absolutely pivotal. So what I do in Microsoft is I engage with the industries towards the digital transformation initiatives pivoted around AI. And there's so much of energy which is happening in every vertical right now, be it banking, financial services, healthcare, automotive, agriculture, anything, education. So there's a lot which is kind of happening out there. So working across with the customers, solving for real problems towards seeing as to what's the potential of taking these across to the next phase and the next stage, driven by innovation.
Okay, so can you delve into this a little bit more? I mean, over the last few years, and particularly post-COVID, can you, from your vantage point, because your technology reaches everyone, very large companies as well as increasingly ordinary folk as well. How is India changing as a market for technology, especially post-COVID, but over the recent years?
Absolutely. Now, let me take a step from where we were and what COVID brought across to us and where we are currently. Now, pre the COVID phase, there were ways in which organizations were working, ways which people were working, ways in which we were working, right? But COVID, frankly, was a time when we learned a lot of net new things, and that has become the way the world has evolved towards adopting, embracing, and thriving in that. Question for all of us is that, did we ever think that hybrid will be the new normal? That you can have a situation that some of us in the office at a particular point of time, while others working across remotely, but everybody equally immersive can create fantastic results. That was never the norm. That's something we've learned. And believe me, this change was also not easy because everybody learned in the process that distributed way of working, technology-led way of working, getting people's overall signals, etc. in a remote manner and still making this immersive, making workplaces thrive was something that we learned on the way. The other thing that we saw as a big change was the emergence of cloud as a practice, and the question of whether or not went away. The question was, when shall we take across the adoption journey of going across to the cloud? The third thing which also happened was the entire cloud journey brought across our realms of where we were operating from the office across to extending it to various spaces, and hence the security malpractices or the emergence of a lot of bad actors. And one of the things that we keep saying in a very humorous manner is that the AI or this entire realm, both the organization and the bad actors will keep on emerging and putting across their own ways of beating each other. You just need to stay one step ahead. And the last part is where I'll delve a little more, is the generative AI. Now, that is something which has taken center stage for every organization in the last 9 months odd. I'll just put across a few statistics to kind of give a little sense of where we are. In a recent report which was published across by PwC, the entire economic impact is supposed to be about 15.7 trillion by 2030. Now, what that also means is that every organization, whether it's a bank, a manufacturing organization, a healthcare, they're looking at setting aside these innovation budget. Because this was not there 9 months back. You were doing things which were, of course, led by certain priorities of the organization. Now, how do you put across these innovation budget? And then you look at seeing that what will you drive by creating net new work streams and looking much ahead of the curve towards doing that. Now, what that has also done for us in Microsoft is that we are working across with our customers, partners, essentially in three ways. And if I were to put an analogy again here, the entire ethos of AI is possibly not new, right? When you would have gone and done some bit of an online shopping, you would have gotten a recommendation. When you would have gone to clear your mailboxes, you would have gotten a mode saying the focused mode, in which you kind of have to check out the mails which are urgent and critical. So we were living in this autopilot way that AI was leading us. But interestingly, what happened in the generative AI era was that there came a fusion of natural language and logic, and hence this entire thing about co-pilots. So co-pilots and how we are working alongside co-pilots in various ways, that we have put co-pilots in our first party products, co-pilots we are building across with our customers in what they are developing, and we are also infusing co-pilots into everything that customers have built, their ISV applications, their frameworks, etc. So it's creating an ecosystem alongside that.
I want to come back to ask you a little bit more about where we are headed with, since you spoke about generative AI. But a couple of words jumped out at me in your comments. The first one was you mentioned pivot quite sort of with some emphasis. Can you give us a sense of the ways in which you've seen Microsoft pivot? Because you said Microsoft has pivoted quite a bit, and recent times also there have been some very significant changes.
I can kind of go back to, say, a couple of the most important pivots which happened. The first one, when we entered the entire cloud journey. The second one, when we talked about the mobile first and the cloud first world. Then we talked about the inferencing which happens between the edge and the cloud, edge being the new cloud. And the last one, which is here and now, is the generative AI. And in the case of all these transitions, if I may, the single largest thing which remained at the heart of everything that we were doing was this entire spirit of A, leading with a growth mindset. Essentially being a learner at heart, because whatever we knew, we had to unlearn a lot of it and learn things because the ecosystem was teaching us. And the second, what Satya has referenced in a lot of things that we've been doing as well, is this entire phenomena of tech intensity. Ensuring that the tech intensity of us as an organization keeps on going up continuously, but not only that, investing across with our partners and along with our customers to ensure that tech intensity comes across the entire fabric of the players in a very seamless manner. So not only do we kind of put across a lot of skilling that we are putting across for our customers, but the entire ecosystem of students, of developers, of IT pros, of businesses, of leaders, and how we are kind of bringing this across. And especially in this age, things which are really paramount in terms of importance is, say, AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and ensuring that you're also, when you're talking about the community at large, ensuring that you're bridging that last mile gap towards employability. That's again an area that we kind of invest and work heavily.
the hybrid workplace and in general that way of working. Can you give us a sense of some of the technologies Microsoft itself built, which you have employed and which now I'm sure a lot of customers are using as well in that scenario?
I would say the first one is Teams. Now think about it, before COVID, how much of your percentage time in a week or a month would you have taken across in any kind of an audio video conferencing mode? And now flip it around. How many times that even if you had the option of going and traveling to a city, you will still debate that can it still overcome the need for a physical travel and can you do it? And this has happened because technology has evolved. So Teams, from where it was in terms of the total number of users to where it is right now, the highest amount of adoption, the highest amount of application available via Teams, so that people, when they're working, Teams becomes the day in their life. You do not need to go across from one application to a second application to a third application. And the last part about Teams is that generative AI has brought in a lot of really cool things across into Teams, for that matter. Say, for example, just some time back, one of my meetings was spilling over and I got late entering into the next meeting by about 15 minutes. And any other time, what would I have done? I would have actually pinged my colleague and told her, tell me the things which I would have missed. And I had certain things to offer for that session as well. I would be asking, have these things been covered? All that I did was I invoked a co-pilot in the Teams and asked for a summary of the first 15 minutes. I asked if these things have been covered. And when I knew that those have not been covered, it gave me a little bit of an edge. So that is one. This other technology that I think really is kind of going across is Microsoft Viva, because the other thing which hybrid work made across as an opportunity for every employer was that how can I create my workplace as the most thriving workplace? So Viva helps you know the overall employee index in a way, if you were to kind of put together what's really kind of going on, and it sits on top of the Microsoft graph. So essentially all the signals which are coming across from the productivity applications, whether it's your Outlook, whether it's Teams, whether it's any kind of a collaboration which is happening, it helps understand the overall, the mood, the sentiment, the collaboration index, etc., and helps the organization makes the right kind of insights and decisions towards ensuring that you're building on across on these indexes. So those were the two most critical ones in my view.
And a slight segue, but kind of a related question. Is it too early to start measuring the impact of these technologies, and particularly the use of AI in terms of whether it is more sustainable, more positive in terms of how much energy we're using, therefore helping companies get to that net zero kind of goal?
I would say it's not too early, because that's the overall destination that we all have to converge towards. So Microsoft, for instance, does a workplace index survey, right? And in that, what we really try to figure out is that how are people doing across certain parameters? And in the course of that, what we realized that over a period of time, people kind of came out and said that they do like having a hybrid workplace environment. They do want to have that flexibility of how they operate. Of course, they want everything to be measured in an outcome-driven manner. And we also asked them, would you be happy delegating things across in a generative AI mode across, and is there any kind of a overall insecurity that you face in that? And the overwhelming response was that people want creativity, people want ingenuity, people want automation or anything which is becoming repetitive to be taken away, so that they can have a fresh way and an ingenious way of kind of coming out for these things. So in my view, everybody thinks that the destination has to be done, and technology is just enabling, and a lot more signals and insights is helping you say that if I want to do this by say 2025, 2028, 2030, these are the measurable goals, and where do I stand against them? So that overall measured way is what we are able to gain right now.
Having people work in remote places when it's possible, and combining that with like a hub and spokes kind of model, Any early findings in terms of whether that is more sustainable or versus having everyone coming to our office?
So, what we clearly pivot towards is that how do we ensure that the culture of Microsoft is percolating and felt by everybody who's kind of a part of the entire ecosystem. So, in the course of that, we do try to ensure that the hybrid way that we are working, every voice needs to be heard. So, how do we ensure that people who are uh, physically present for a meeting or anybody who's kind of participating remotely, we ensure every voice getting heard. The second is at any points of time, say for women, if they have to take any kind of segue for their various career and work led priorities, how are we accommodating that? There are various ways we are able to accommodate that. And finally, I think working along with our partners and customers, we are trying to ensure that the hybrid way of working, which we think will be the future, what should be the workplace looking like to enable that with a teams led overall infrastructure so that people have a much more immersive way of thinking about it. So, whether it's a Teams room, whether it's a whiteboard of an application, so that people are kind of co creating things, even if they are not there totally in the room. So, that's the way we are kind of leveraging technology and evolving towards that.
Let's talk a bit more about AI. If you throw the story forward, where do you see us going? Right now, it's about productivity using software. In tomorrow's world, when you apply more and more of it to the physical world with AI-driven automation, what kind of scenarios are you building technology for?
Absolutely. And thanks for that question, because the first pivot that everybody thinks of is personal productivity. But the world is much beyond that. And when we look at our customers and we talk to businesses in particular, everybody is kind of thinking about how AI can go across in different realms of what they are doing. So I'll start by say manufacturing for that matter. Right from what is happening in terms of enhancing, improving the supply chain efficiency towards things which are happening on the factory floor, towards ensuring that you're enhancing safety. And how will you do it? Say, ensuring that you're kind of getting a lot of these signals from IoT led sensors, which can give you video imagery, which can give you enhanced level of real time things which are happening right on the floor. You will be able to detect patterns and ensure that safety norms, etc., are taken care of. Things like troubleshooting in an auto industry, vehicles, etc., which are out on the road, level 1 support which can be given there. That's one part. The other part that we are seeing, there's a lot which is coming across, is around the customer care. So both customer support and customer query. One of the examples that I want to cite is the Air India Maharaja bot. Now, that is the place. All of us use travel, airlines, and for everybody, everything is just in time, and nobody has that little level of patience for anything to kind of go awry. Now, in that kind of a scenario, creating a generative AI bot, and since the launch which happened in March, till date about 500,000 queries, answering about 6,000 queries, 80% of them being answered in seconds across 1,300 areas. That's the kind of efficiency on, say, a customer query and a customer care which is happening. A similar thing again in a airlines industry, which is Make My Trip. There, I mean, everybody wants things personalized for them. Now, when I ask in, say, a vernacular language about a vacation that I'm wanting to take, getting a response which is for a tier 2, tier 3 audience and ensuring that is for their particular requirement, that makes a difference. Moving across to say banking, so fraud, risk management, customer onboarding, these are areas that people are looking at. In the healthcare segment, looking at how do you ensure that the doctor fatigue goes away? How do you ensure that cardiovascular scores can be created much more effectively, leveraging the power of AI? One of the areas which is also close to my heart is what are we doing for the citizen population and at large, for the grassroots level, doing things at scale? And this is something that we did along with the government of India, the Bhashini Jugalbandi bot. So the government has a lot of internet services that they have, citizen services which is available via the internet. Now, not everything is reaching the last mile. It's because people don't have the ability to ask the right set of questions and they don't even know what is available. So if via a voice-led vernacular language mode, you ask the question in your own language, it does a translation by the power of AI, goes across to GPT and the entire large language model, throws the responses and gives it across to the remote villager. That's the mission that the government of India is working on, and we're partnering along with them. So I kind of try to give you a little bit of a spectrum on the various verticals where things are happening.
On the manufacturing front, I'm also curious about, in the context of what now some folks in the industry are beginning to call universal manufacturing, what's the role you see for Microsoft in that, with all the AI that you're developing?
So the way I would frame it is that manufacturing is also going a lot of transformation, and it's always a way that it has to be done in a mode that what will you take across, going across to a transition, going across in a cloud journey, what will remain hybrid, and how you take across the entire digital transformation in that realm, right? And a lot of it is domain specific, brought across by specific ISV players who are kind of developing technologies and building up scenarios for that. So we work a lot with the key ISV players in this ecosystem and working on those areas along with AI-led efficiencies and automation and everything that we bring across to the sector.
In the enterprise space, can you give us a sense of what are the complexities involved in applying AI?
Yeah. So the first thing that everybody kind of thinks about is that how secure is it? What's the overall privacy, security, compliance, which is being dealt across with the data that I have, right? And when you think about this, ever since we started in the world of AI, we adhere to the principles, 6 principles of AI as we call it. And that goes around a few very critical things, which is related to reliability, security, having transparency, inclusiveness, fairness. And along with these principles, we just wanted to ensure that when we enter the world of generative AI, it can't stop there because of 2 reasons. First of all, we don't even know what we don't know. And the second thing is that it has to be evolved in the way technology is evolving. So even if you set across certain principles today, in just a matter of a month, it needs to create a change. So what we did is around the May timeframe, along with the governments in various parts of the world, we created what we said was the blueprint of generative AI for the context of the local, working along with the local government. And with all humility, we are kind of developing it in context of what we are seeing across. And it does things in a way that it works along with the government, creating something for the law of the land. Second, it also brings in safety breaks for things or elements which are adhering to, say, infrastructure which is critical for that particular country. The third is we also try to put across laws and regulation towards that. Then we try to bring in a lot of public-private partnerships in that. And finally, we also try to ensure that we get the academia, the industry, and everybody involved. So there's a lot of transparency in that. But all in all, I think the entire onus that we put across here is that Microsoft has also learned a lot in the way in terms of best practices, toolkits. We share this very openly with our customers, with our partners in whatever they're developing. For us also, we learn a lot by putting these across to our users, audiences, and ensuring that we are taking a lot of feedback in the way that we're building across. So for example, the co-pilots that we've built. So we've got things which are there in Azure OpenAI, but we've got more than 15 co-pilots. We've got co-pilots in Microsoft 365, in Teams, in Bing, in GitHub. GitHub is currently being used by more than 1 million developers, and it's got about a 55% of a developer productivity enhancements. But for us, the reality is that, are developers really using it and seeing that coming across? The low-code, no-code area, say for example, people using Power Platform, that itself can bring across a lot of efficiencies in the way things get evolved and developed. So are people really experiencing this? So the litmus test for the organizations is that for the investment which is happening, are they seeing the real ROI? And how can you create that framework towards experiencing that?
A long time ago, maybe at the sort of beginning of cloud computing, the sort of usual refrain used to be that is it secure enough or not? what is that changed to or shifted to today? What is the big challenge with embracing cloud computing, especially in the sort of public deployment kind of scenario?
Yeah, so security is one place wherein I think if anybody were to lose sleep at any point of time for the very right reasons, this will be one area, right? Because it truly represents the brand of the organization, who you are. And few of the things which we kind of feel has come across in the offing is that Microsoft, for instance, at any point of time, we take our overall perspectives from 65 trillion signals, which is coming across from usages and users who are going across to different technologies. And we are able to synthesize that with an ecosystem of, say, partners, of ecosystem players, and ensure that we are able to predict and see patterns and give that across in a very proactive manner. Now, when you think about customers who have taken the journey across to the cloud, where are they in this? The amount of technology investment which has gone across from the security players as well as from organization towards fortifying this entire lay of the land on security, whether it's the endpoint, whether it's the application security, whether it's the cloud enterprise solutions, whether it's the application level security, it's an end-to-end solution play which happens. So from our standpoint, for example, our entire philosophy has been a zero trust based philosophy in which we are ensuring that all the solutions and the platforms and also ensuring security to third-party applications and products, whatever is running in your organizations, we are able to cover that in an effective manner with the security platform that we provide. But yes, it's a journey. And what we say is that it's a team sport. It's no longer the responsibility and accountability of an IT team, and it's a muscle that you need to keep evolving and developing day on day, every day.
Okay, this might be a strange question to ask one of the biggest cloud companies in the world, but if you were to make a brutally honest assessment of the promise of cloud computing, do you think it has delivered so far? And what comes to your mind in terms of the top findings of what can be done better?
So first things first, I would say the answer to that is a yes. To the promise of what cloud computing can deliver, right? What also happens is that when you look at the entire technology landscape and the trajectory at which it's going, by the time you go a third way, your expectations and what can happen more becomes that much higher, right? I mean, we were in the cloud computing journey when we came across to the edge. We were in the edge when we came across to generative AI. But I think to the promise, and I'll speak in context of India, if you were to think about what would all of us think is the best promise that it delivers, is that A, the scale, and B, the access. If both of these are made available to the largest of the population scale at the pace in which it really benefits everybody, that will be the true promise that we deliver. And towards that, Microsoft, along with the ecosystem players, the government, and a lot of NGOs and everybody put together, of course, we do a lot of projects which are associated around agriculture, health, things around skilling, etc. And these are things under the AI for Good umbrella. Couple of the projects that we've done here, one was a project that we did along with Seeds, which was towards seeing things on the sustainability side. And it was taking satellite imagery towards checking out if there are any spaces where natural disaster-led events, etc., could happen, and giving proactive signals towards that, working along with various artisans, villagers, etc., towards that to see as to how AI can help their livelihood, etc., right? So that's the final promise, if I may.
Can you give us a sense of how many people Microsoft touches every day in India in one way or the other?
Sure. So we work with the largest of the enterprises all across. And I think the way to measure the impact has become a little complex, if you may, right? I mean, we work with some of the largest of the banks and some of the largest manufacturing houses. We've developed a lot of these super apps, which is a touch point for all of us as consumers when they are going across and trying to touch the bank or the manufacturing organization or the e-tailer for anything that we want to buy. Now, these have multi-millions of users which are out there, right? So, from the organizations that we are working across with, we work along with the largest of the enterprises. Our technologies are powering a lot to do with what we are doing on both the modern work side and the cloud side with the SMBs. We do a lot of work with digital natives. We worked with digital natives towards building across applications, which say are things like one of the applications that we worked is with Darwinbox, which is an HR tech firm, which is kind of working along organizations and also kind of infusing things into our products. Builder.ai, which is kind of trying to see as to how it can help developers bring across productivity and development a lot more easier, even if you're not technical in nature. So that was the startup community. And finally, along with the government, through various large-scale programs, through the programs that I talked about, say Abhashini, etc., which are creating these frameworks. You create a framework for a department, and then it has the potential of going to many, many more. So this was on one side. The others that we also work with is very closely with the education and the academia towards ensuring that we are kind of bringing across the tools and the technology that they require, not just for delivering what they have to do, but also towards ensuring that they are learning the skills, etc., which is required for the next generation.
Today, what's your assessment of whether you're in Indian, the enterprise customer in India, where are they at in terms of adopting cloud technologies versus how one would sort of historically see as the market leaders, be it in Silicon Valley or other such hubs?
I would say the pace, the enthusiasm, and being ahead of the curve. A lot of overall progress was made at the COVID phase, and it has only gone up further post that. So leading in these areas, of course, is banking, manufacturing, retail, healthcare. These have really kind of led across for two reasons. One is the customer affinity, and what happens in the last mile with customers, frankly, brings a lot more difference if you lead it with tech. And second, whenever you want to bring across changes in operations, efficiencies, these are led by insights. And that is also delivered by tech. So if you want to make a difference to the customer on one side, you're leading with tech. If you're wanting to kind of see things and get a real-time here and now signal, that's led by tech. And what is playing a very pivotal role here is the power of data. So while we're talking about cloud, the entire thing about all these customers sitting on tons of data, which they now have the ability to derive a lot of insights from, and also to help serve better their existing customers. That's the unlock which has really happened as well.
30 years into the industry, what keeps you going in terms of, it's, your enthusiasm for tech is palpable. So what keeps you still interested in tech?
I think it's a little to do with myself and a lot to do with the company that I'm in as well. So the first company that I joined was Tata Steel. I come from an engineering background, and I was pretty intrigued by everything which was happening across at the blast furnaces, etc. Mega machines, complex things happening all over. And then, of course, I entered the world of technology and what goes behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people are always intrigued by that has remained. So two things which has also remained in the culture of Microsoft is the ethos of being curious and also being a continuous learner. And that's something that I kind of found was an opportunity to kind of keep going by. And I was talking a little while ago about this tech intensity. And for us in Microsoft, when we took the plunge towards cloud, a big thing for us was towards ensuring that we have the credentials, etc., by doing certifications. And that was kind of interesting. And having said that, I just went into doing certifications for myself across various courses, curriculums. And that kind of got me thinking that, wow, now I know a lot of things which are kind of happening inside. The other thing is also that, the amount of curriculums, etc., which is kind of available, say AI for Business Schools, which was another course which was there from INSEAD, you really got to know the appreciation of technology from the customer lens. And when you're kind of doing these kind of things about technology, you're learning ahead of the curve and able to kind of solve for real customer needs. Because I mean, the thing is that when you're visiting a customer, they frankly know as much as anybody else because the information is out there. Now, how do you become a trusted advisor? By kind of knowing the context and the relevance. So that's what kind of happened. And I mean, I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I do read books. The podcasts, which are some of them by Kevin Scott, Behind the Tech, GeekWire, etc., AI Every Day. I do keep listening to a lot of them, and Super Intelligence, and a lot of these AI-led books are also some of the areas which have kind of kept me going. I do a lot of that too.
Yeah, I mean, by way of homework, I tried to learn something about your work based on what you've written yourself as well as whatever is available on the internet. I saw that you have a host of certifications within Microsoft itself. And now, of course, Microsoft is making a lot of this available to everyone through even some free courses.
Yes.
I think the latest one I came across on Generative AI, if I'm not mistaken. And anyone can take these modules and teach themselves what's happening. And so that's really something to be excited about for anyone who's interested in tech, or even to learn something that, you know, would probably impact their lives and at work and so on. What is it that has kept you at Microsoft for more than 22 years now?
Good question. And actually, to the certifications that you were asking, one of the things that I've learned at Microsoft is that it's a platform which keeps you always creative, learning, and yearning for more. And given the pivots that I was talking to you earlier, you're learning certain things out here, but Microsoft, frankly, is a platform that you can learn things to deliver to a large audience at scale for whatever you want to do. So a lot of people out here, for the passion that they want to kind of pursue out of their own calling or yearning, they can do that in the context of their work itself. For example, one of my favorite stints out here in Microsoft was the time that I was heading the education vertical out here. And I come from a family of educators, right from my great-grandfather to my parents, everybody. And when I was doing that, I did not have a prior experience in the education vertical, but I got an opportunity to do that. And when I was doing that, of course, it was a lot of diverse experience traveling to 14 or 15 states, engaging with all the states' ecosystem of the educators, the entire team which is kind of creating the curriculum and everybody put together. And believe me, those kinds of experience, gives you an ability to think very ingeniously, because not every problem has been seen and thought of. And you have the ability to think of large scale ways of solving things, right? And the second thing was that in certain parts of these roles that I've taken, I always found that Microsoft also gives you an opportunity to take unconventional roles. So you can take certain unconventional roles, take certain things that you want to learn, and that's what gives you a very steep learning curve. So all in all, I would say that the learning has never ceased. The opportunities are always immense, and the sheer ability to serve a large community outside of what you're doing, including your customer partners and everybody else, makes it a very satisfying experience.
Give one example of the unconventional aspect of career growth. Maybe there was something along the way for you. I'm sure there must have been more than one instances where you either deliberately or because someone like a mentor or somebody thought that you would do well in that role, but it put you initially a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And then you discovered that indeed you could learn as well as do well in that role.
Sure. So this was one stint that I did across in Redmond with Microsoft. And for the longest period of time, I'd been working across in India. Of course, it took me out of my comfort zone. And it took me to a place where I was working across on a project which was to do with the global application platform strategy for a next gen of a landing. And in that stint, I really learned that working across with global leaders who are seeing things from a vantage point, what it means towards big thinking, big picture thinking, what it means towards connecting the dots, what it means towards creating something, executing, landing, and then seeing that did you achieve what you wanted to achieve or else tweak it with a lot of agility, and everything is happening real time. So the ability to see things from a creation to the last mile impact and then changing it. Now, this was not something that I was used to. Of course, there were things which are cultural diversity led learnings which happened across for me, and also the ability to kind of stitch a story with different lenses. When I came back, I remember that, I mean, the initial part was fraught with a lot of nervousness, a lot of anxiety. But I do think that the entire ethos of people kind of giving you a safety net towards working, learning, and ensuring that you're kind of working alongside them gave me a lot of overall way of confidence. And that's kind of always stayed back with me.
What is executing landing? I didn't really understand what the term was that you're referring to.
So when you create a plan, so you will be kind of thinking about a strategy towards saying that you will be going across to 15 partners doing ABC kind of a campaign. Now that's the part that you've created as a strategy. Now you're going to a partner A and trying to create that go-to-market plan on a ground level, right? Now when you're doing the gives and gets, you've put a lovely thought process towards things that you've thought yourself, but does it really jive and work along with that partner? And are they seeing it adding value to the customer? So when you're doing this towards executing at the last mile and then taking the final last step of going along with the partner to a customer and then seeing that, yes, this is indeed making sense. That's the last mile that I was kind of talking about.
And you mentioned working with global leaders in large companies. I would imagine both within Microsoft and your customers, the people that you met. More recently, experts in the industry are talking about how a lot of global decision making in multinational organizations is moving to India. People such as yourselves are increasingly taking decisions that would impact not just operations within India, but also operations in other parts of the world, especially IT decisions, tech decisions, and so on. Is this a trend that you are seeing in the industry when you meet CIOs? I mean, maybe you're meeting the CIO of a very large financial organization, which could be the Indian arm of a multinational company, but this person might be making decisions which even the sort of global parent is going to adopt. Do you see this happening, and can you give us a sense of why that's happening now?
Sure. The answer to that is yes. And I see this coming across in a lot of these GICs, the Global Innovation Companies, and also a lot of these foundations, which are kind of getting set across in India. And I think that from an erstwhile period in which the overall way that companies used to work would be kind of identifying certain sets of things to be done and work used to get delivered. Now, the ability of a lot of these GICs is towards creating innovation-led pilots and making that a playbook for the world. And that is happening quite a bit at scale. Why is that happening? The challenges which are faced across by, say, the audience in India, which is to do with latency, last mile, scale, etc. If you're solving for these problems, you really can take it global. I mean, look at the thing that the government of India is doing, and similarly things which, say, a lot of our mobile operators are doing. And even, for example, for that matter, Microsoft in India, for everything which is developed by our the IDC out here, they work very, very closely with our corporates towards ensuring that there's a bit of technology which is infused in everything which is going on. That's been happening for a long period of time.
Okay, I'll jump back to a slightly earlier train of thought. 30 years ago, I would imagine there weren't the kind of career options that young people have today. And parents certainly would like to see their children. Even today, of course, in India, parents are obsessed with seeing their children go to engineering schools or medical school and so on. That part hasn't gone off, even if startups have become more fashionable. What got you interested in tech and electrical engineering? What was behind that decision?
So I think first things, I was interested in maths a lot. Data analytics, logic used to interest me a lot. And then science came alongside. So that was possibly the fusion. And like you said, choices were as many, as little as that point of time. So I kind of went in for engineering. But having said that, once I was doing engineering and then I was kind of looking at things beyond, I realized that the people centric way of engaging was something which kind of was something I was enjoying. And so tech, along with engaging with people, was something which was coming across as a sweet spot. So, of course, I spent a lot of years doing various kinds of things. And from being a sales business leader, then I did take a plunge towards going across into the tech side. Because if you look at Microsoft, also the overall pivot which happened on diving much deeper into tech intensity was a crucial point. And that also kind of got me a lot more engaged, and that curiosity quotient kind of kept me going. So that's where I realized that this is a place where I kind of investing along with the people, along with the customers, and kind of taking this entire set of learnings back for myself was something that I was thriving and enjoying.
Explain what you all mean by tech intensity at Microsoft.
Tech intensity, the way we kind of phrase it is a combination of few things. One is, how do you ensure that at your own level, the understanding, appreciation, and internalization of technology is happening? Say, for example, you're talking cloud, you're talking Azure. How much do you understand, internalize, and adopt it yourself? B, how are you kind of ensuring that it is built across in the products or the conversations that you're taking across? And C, when you're taking this across to the customers, what is that trust element? Because customers will trust you for the tech intensity that they see, which is kind of coming across and built across to them. So this is the entire way that we kind of put across our technical prowess, if you may, to the things that we take across in our engagements.
Fair enough. I would imagine that's a bit of a marathon with milestones as you go along. And speaking of marathons, you're a runner. Not sure if I made the transition to that question very elegantly, but still, what got you to running, and why particularly that sport?
Yeah. So at school, I was interested in athletics and any kind of athletics. I'll just be kind of dabbling, plunging, and going around, of course. And then work life, etc., happened. It had taken a backseat. But being in the city of Bangalore in that 2010 kind of a time frame, I realized that fitness was something which was always a part of me. And I just realized that going out in the road and running had a lot of happiness, joy, and if I may, that meditative thinking time, right? So you're just kind of being in your own zone. And one thing led to the other, and Bangalore, of course, has a lot of runners. So you started running alongside. But more importantly, I think that the part about running, and it's also to do with what you learn from that, right? It teaches you humility. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you to push yourself. You're not always delighted to get up in the morning and run every day. It also teaches you a lot of camaraderie. And it also kind of brings in that element of building the stamina and the fact that what are you in for? Certain times you have to do certain sprints for a task, but a lot of times you just take a step back and you say that this is a marathon, this particular project initiative, not to get short-sighted, because you have to look at what the end goal and the end outcome, what is the purpose of that, right? And one of the things which I keep talking always is that in life, you are always kind of racing and running against yourself, just to be the best version of yourself every day, the next day, the following day. And going with the spirit of no race, just win, right? Because it's not the next timing or next race that you're running, but just kind of ensuring that you're being a finisher. That's what matters. Long story, but
oh, very nice. That said, do you keep track of your times? What's your best time?
I'm not a fast runner, so I've done a couple of the full marathons, but my half marathons is a 2. So that's where it has been. But I just kind of keep the spirit of running now. That's how it is.
As a schoolgirl, were you into sports of any kind?
Yes, I was into athletics only, and I was into athletics of various kinds.
Where were you born?
I was born in Banaras, actually, but I did my entire schooling in Patna. My ancestral home was in Banaras, so I kind of kept on toggling between Banaras and Patna.
And did your parents teach in Banaras? You said they're educators.
Yes, so they taught in Patna. They both of them come from an educational background. Father, a geologist in Patna University. So of course, I mean, a lot of things around experimentation, exploration is what I learned from him. Mother was a professor in Hindi, and that also is a language. It's a skill that I've kind of learned. So both of them were in the profession of teaching. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Connecting that to young people today who are aspiring for various careers, but in one way or the other, technology is going to impact whichever way of, whatever line of work they choose. What would you advise them in the sense of how would you have them prepare?
So I would say that one should always think of one's career journey in today's times, especially as a person who's got this compass and a route map kind of a thing. And always ensure that you're learning net new skills. So things that I'll be thinking of 6 months from now might change. Where was generative AI 9 months back? Where was metaverse prior to that? So to be in this thing, that the skill set of having the muscle power to know what I have to learn and then learning that. Also the ability to unlearn and learn very quickly. And a very loosely coupled metaphor for that could be that how can you be like possibly a chameleon who keeps on changing colors at all points of time because of the need of the environment, which is so. So keep your eye for the environment, keep your agility to know what is happening across, and always have a few skills. It's not a skill that you go across. And a lot of times people ask me the questions, a generalist versus a specialist. And I kind of keep on saying that, I mean, wherever your passion is, but it's good to have an element of a generalist approach because the big picture thinking and then where you zone in always helps.
Very nice. Any last thoughts, Irina, before I let you go? Anything that you want to highlight?
Well, thank you so much, first of all. And it was such a pleasure having this conversation across with you. I think the part that I would say is that in the world of technology, if you may, the period which has been most exciting and the time which is kind of creating this entire pivot of a change is really now. Really an exciting time. And for us, it's fortunate that we are a part of this entire journey. What we do together with everybody who's kind of taking a plunge in this in a very responsible, immersive, and a manner that we co-innovate will frankly define the future. So in the journey together with everybody.
That's it for this conversation. You can find all our podcasts and videos on ForbesIndia.com or on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. I'm Hari Arkli. Thank you for watching.